Excited once again, everyone, to introduce our friends from Stil'rs Chalk Talk, Mike McMahon and Randy Tantlinger. What's up, fellas?
Howdy!
How you guys doing?
We're doing.
I'm feeling southern today. Sorry about that. Howdy!
Randy, you're nuts.
Thank you very little.
We're doing well here. It's a nice 80 degrees here in State College. So let's talk some football for the Stil'rs. Obviously, we have some concerns probably heading into this game, so I guess my biggest focus would be in Randy's field of expertise, which is the Stil'rs are about to do something that only 5 teams have done since 1970, and that is start an all-5-player offensive line with all 5 different players from the previous year's opening game, which, to me, wow, that is unprecedented and sounds extremely scary because we're starting some rookies in there, and not everybody has, like, a veteran pedigree that we can rely on. So, Randy, what do you think, brother?
I tell you what, either this thing is going to turn out great, and these guys are going to congeal in the black and gold way, or you're going to see Ben Roethlisberger get Joe Theismann real soon, because they've got to play some defenses. I can just throw out Khalil Mack's name from Chicago. So that either they're going to congeal and become a great unit quickly, or they're going to cause a lot of havoc real quickly as well. Now, when you go position by position, I actually have a little bit of hope for this line. Start with your new center, Kendrick Green. I like this kid. He's smart, he's very aggressive, and we've seen him in the preseason get into that second tier of blocking, get off of some linemen and get on to some linejackers. That's very essential if you're going to open up some holes for Najee.
It seems, though, we're going to take some lumps with him as well, right? Because when he makes mistakes, they could be a little bit bigger as well, like maybe getting that bull rush or something that he wasn't prepared for. So I guess we're probably going to take our lumps throughout the season as well because he's going to be learning on the fly, right?
Well, look, it's a faster game at the NFL level. Any defensive coordinator is going to be licking his chops with this offensive line for the Stil'rs. You throw some loops in there, you throw some fire blitzes in there. These young offensive rookies, this young offensive line has to come together. I mean, the simple act of passing off a defensive lineman. What does that mean? Perhaps he's looped in from that left tackle over Kendrick Green. Kendrick Green's got to punch block him and pass him off over to Kevin Dotson or Trey Turner. So there's a lot to learn here quickly, and you can expect defensive coordinators are going to try to exploit that. The most important, and it stands out to everybody, and it was a tidal wave when this news that Dan Moore is going to be your starting left tackle. This was a tsunami of news coming out of Stil'rs land over the weekend when you look at the depth chart.
So let me stop you real quick. Is that why did the Stil'rs not recognize that need earlier and plan him there? Did Chooks underperform so badly and they'd hoped that he would get better the more they saw in training camp? Because it seemed like way late to the dance to make that change in my viewpoint.
Well, what you saw, let's answer Dan's question first, Big Dan Moore. What you saw throughout training camp is he was being put in at left tackle. He was being put in at right tackle. And he looked great on both sides of the line. He looked impressive for a rookie. He did not look like a deer in headlights. His feet speed is outstanding. A lot of people say feet speed for a lineman. Your feet are so important as a professional football player, as an offensive lineman. The reason he is starting this week on Ben's blind side against the Buffalo Bills is really simple. It's not so much that Zach Banner went down and Chooks Okafor is used to that right side. It's the fact that, as we spoke of the last time we were on air, Chooks Okafor, he did not find himself in that left tackle position. He was being driven backwards. He was being driven back into Ben. He was being beaten throughout the preseason. He was making rookie error mistakes at that blind side tackle position. this is mostly about Chooks Okafor not living up to what they hoped he would be at left tackle. Zach Banner goes down, Chooks goes over, and now you're entrusting your franchise Hall of Fame quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, in the hands of Big Dan Moore. And I'm going to make a prediction. It may get a little dicey up there in Buffalo, and it may get a little dicey when the Raiders come to town. I think this kid is going to grow into the position right in front of our eyes, Andy. I really do.
Well, let's hope so. Let's get Mike involved here. And Mike, what are your thoughts on what are we going to expect in that opening day from Matt Canada?
Well, I think you'll see some stuff you haven't seen in the preseason at all. They're going to show some of the stuff that they did, but you'll see a lot of new things. I think you're going to see a lot more runs, a lot more formations, a lot of motions, and just an all-around mix. And again, you'll see a lot of like the stuff that the Steelers do, like the quick 3-step drop stuff and getting the ball out of Ben's hand quick. It's just to help the O-line. If they get the ball out of the hands quick and a couple little Y-stick passes early on, they've done that twice as the first play in the opening of the game, in the first game and the second game, just to get the ball out of his hand quick, get the lineman a little bit of break, and then they'll get Najee Harris into the game, get him running. There's going to be it's going to be a mix-up. But here's the thing: in a first season game, there's going to be a lot of stuff that, like in the preseason, you saw some basic stuff that's a staple of the offense, but you're going to see a lot of new stuff that they've been working on all training camp, all mini camps, and they've been waiting to bring it out. And they're going to do that. And once that first season game comes, it's all about just both defenses are going to see things they haven't seen. Both offenses are going to see some things the defenses haven't done yet in that preseason. Now, obviously, the Steelers have a unit been together, and McDermott's been up there, so they kind of know the scheme that they're going to do. But you'll see a couple of surprise blitzes, and that might pull the Steelers off at the line. But again, if the Steelers get the run game going, a lot of play-action pass and some quick passes early, I think you can protect that new offensive line.
I think when you scared half of Steelers Nation when you said quick step drop and three-step drop in that release, and they're thinking, oh my God, it's Randy Fichtner 2.0. Do you think it's going to be different? Is it going to revert back to that? Oh, we had to preserve Ben's life, so it's going to look a lot like last year. You think there's a way to do both?
No, see what they did last year was they just did empty the entire time, and you knew it was going to come out quick, and every once in a while they'd be forced to go down the field. This time you're going to see they'll come out in the shotgun. On first down, they might run the ball from the gun, but they also might just do a quick handoff. They might run the ball from the gun with Najee Harris, but they also might just do a little Y-stick spacing concept just to get a cheap 4 or 5 yards on first down to put them in a 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 2nd and manageable situation, and then you'll see that run to try and get them down to 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 type situation. I just think you'll see a lot more variety and a lot more mix-up with Matt Canada as offensive coordinator.
What do you think is more vital? Throwing to open up the running game so they can't stack the box, or running effectively to open up the throwing game?
I typically, I prefer to throw on first down, just get a completion, even if it's a deep ball down on first down. If you run deep routes on first down, and if it's wide open, you go ahead and take it. If it's not, you just check it down to your running back and you get an easy 4 yards. Now you can now the defense is guessing, are they going to run it on 2nd and medium, or are they going to throw it on 2nd and medium? There's a lot more. But when you're 2nd and long, 3rd and long, it's just so much more difficult. So the key is get that 4 yards on first down, no matter if it's a run or if it's a pass. And it's a short pass or a deep pass and checking it down.
Gotcha. Now, Tomlin was pretty coy today on his press conference when he was asked his last question by the reporter. She asked him about the status of McFarland and whether it was a short-term or long-term injury, and he said he doesn't even know because he only concerns himself with players who are available. Have you guys heard what is the injury with McFarland?
I have not heard anything. I mean, it came as a complete shock.
Me as well.
That he was going on IR. But I think you're in good hands with Najee and Kalen Ballage. Benny the Snell slow Snell there. He's a third running back, but you're in good hands with Harris, Balaj. I have no idea what's going on with McFarland. But to go back a little bit to what you asked Mike Andy about options on first down, either to throw it or run it, and then also the weakness potentially of this offensive line. Matt Canada is going to use Derek Watt in a couple good ways. Randy Fichtner sat Derek Watt on the bench last year. You've got the fact that Derek Watt not only can catch a ball out of the backfield for you after he makes sure no linebackers are blitzing, but now you also have the ability for Derek Watt. Let's say if Dan Moore gets into some trouble out there and you play Watt in the backfield, he can help those offensive linemen with some blocking to give Ben that extra 1 second. And I think that's what Matt Canada brings to this offense is intelligence, football IQ, something that Haley and Fichtner never had. So somehow I got all the way to Derek Watt answering about what's wrong with McFarland, but I don't think there is any word on the street with McFarland.
Yeah, McFarland caught me by surprise as well, and it was kind of an undisclosed injury. It might have been just a way to make some room on the roster to keep an extra guy for right now. Maybe they just think he wasn't ready. But again, I don't think, they have Benny Snell listed as the number 2 on the roster, but I don't see it. I think he's really the number 3. I think Balaj is the number 2. I think he takes care of the football better. I think he runs harder, and I think he blocks better personally. So I just think that it's going to be a heavy dose of Najee Harris, and then you'll see some Derek Watt out of the eye with Balaj, and then you'll see Balaj and Derek Watt in short yardage, maybe some goal line situation. You'll see a lot of Najee Harris, and I think Benny Snell's going to be very limited. I'm surprised they actually put Jalen Samuels on the practice squad. I thought they would keep him and maybe put Benny Snell on the practice squad just because Balaj, Benny Snell, and Najee Harris are all big backs, and I think Jalen Samuels kind of brings that little speed shiftiness factor, and he performed well in that third preseason game. But again, I don't see Benny Snell getting a lot. He just struggles taking care of the football, and in the NFL, you have a fumble, you're going to be demoted really quick.
Do you think Zach Banner re-aggravated his knee injury, or is it just the fact that he hasn't healed as quickly as they would hope?
I think it's a little both, Andy. From day one in camp, he had a huge brace on his leg, and he never looked fluid at any point. He never looked fluid. He never looked comfortable. And again, that injury to Zach Banner allowed the young rookie, your starting left tackle for your Pittsburgh Steelers, Mr. Dan Moore, to show what he's capable of. So I really think it's a little bit of both. And also, I saw Zach in the off season down in the Strip District of Pittsburgh, on a beautiful day on a Sunday with his family, and he had a little bit of that belly going, a little bit more, too much belly than you want to see on an offensive lineman. So to answer your question directly, I think you've got two things going on. He didn't rehab properly, that may be a lingering injury, and maybe he retweaked it just because he wasn't in good shape. The bottom line is he's on IR right now, and you've got to rely on, well, at least you got the veteran with Joe Haig you could throw in there and plug in there. But the eyes of Texas and Steeler Nation are on Dan Moore Jr. come this Sunday.
Well, let's take a second and flip the coin here. Before we start talking about the defense, let's address the elephant in the room, and which is T.J. Watt. Found it interesting that the Steelers didn't vote him captain this year. I don't know if that speaks to his passive holdout or whatnot, but they went with Ben, Cam, and T.J.'s brother Derek. So Tomlin, again, was quoted as today that he's 100% convinced that TJ is going to practice fully and be a go for the game this week. What are your guys' thoughts on this issue as it develops?
Personally, they went from 5 captains to 3, and I think typically you would see TJ Watt as the captain, and you might see them add more captains as the season goes along. but you can't make him a captain when he's held out all camp. So that's the only thing. I think you will see him this week. I think they'll get a deal done.
You think
Randy?
it breaks? Do you think the Steelers break their standard way of negotiating with the amount of guaranteed money that they give that goes beyond the first year, like other teams do, or do you think they're going to hold their ground?
I think they hold their ground. I think Kevin Colbert is an absolute genius and has proven this in this offseason. God forbid. I mean, I think the worst case scenario is they franchise tag him. You're going to make him extremely angry. This is not a Bud Dupree situation. I mean, I think you're going to see him on the field. I'll be shocked if not. They would have already made a move. If they knew they weren't close to a number at this point of what they're going to pay him, and they're comfortable with that number, there would have been a deal done already for a first round or a second round draft pick in the next year. But here's the darn problem, Andy. It's too much high drama on Tuesday going into the first game of the season against the Buffalo Bills.
Right. Do you buy into that soft tissue injury proponent where you haven't really ran yourself anybody in training camp, so you're going to get out there and you're going to try to go 100% game speed, and that's typically where a calf pull or something like that rears its ugly head?
No, because of this. I saw him throughout camp working. Now, he wasn't banging into bodies, but whereas you had Stephon Tuitt right beside him on the, we'll call it the preseason IR, Stephon Tuitt wasn't doing much of anything. He was going through some cone drills and doing this. Literally, T.J. Watt, from the time practice started till it ended, was working out. They had his personal trainer, I'll call him, had him pushing a sled with close to 300 pounds on it for 45 minutes. He got breaks, obviously, in between. Had him running gassers from the 50 to the 50 while the rest of the team was down here. There's no doubt he's in good physical condition. So that running into another player and turning into the snot knocker that we know he is just going to come to him naturally. So I think he's in good enough condition that you don't have to worry about soft tissue injuries with him.
Well, where's the depth?
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike.
I see your point. I know what Randy's saying. He is in great shape, but I recall myself going into every training camp feeling like, man, I'm in great shape. Your weight's up, you're strong, you can run fast, you can cut. But there is a difference when you start, as opposed to training and running and doing simulated stuff, as opposed to being on the field, rushing the quarterback, coming around the end, and then all of a sudden, a quick little dump off to the back on a screen, and you have to change your direction and cut back, or react to a back on a cut. So he hasn't been doing that. Kind of like those fast twitch hip muscles that you can run through cones, you can run through stuff, but your mind sees it coming. Your mind knows you're going through that drill, and you're working those muscles. It's different when you just have to stop on a dime and react. So there is a little hesitancy that I might see, like, if they put him in there, you're not going to see his typical snap count, in my opinion, because you will set him up for possible injury then.
I think that's a great point. Sorry to cut you off there, Andy. Mike's absolutely right about snap count, especially with Ingram, who I think that was a brilliant move to grab him during the offseason. Ingram's looked great in every game he played in and in practice. So I agree with Mike on that. Limit T.J. Watt's snap count come game time.
I'd make him play every play. You want to hold out this long? You're playing every play in 90 degree. Get out there, kid.
Andy Vince Lombardi up there, man. I love it.
So, and
they won't do that if they pay him.
Yeah, true. Any change, any progression in Devin Bush's knee? Are we expecting to see him look like he's healthy on Sunday? Or you think we're going to notice some things, and you think he's going to plan? They're going to plan to use him as a starter, obviously, correct?
I think you're going to see him flying around, knocking the snot out of people, not having to worry about calling any defenses. I think he's looked great so far. His only Achilles heel, and Mike and I saw this, it's apparent to everybody. Even the lady that does the dishes down in the bottom of Heinz Field after lunch knows there's one problem with Devin Bush. When you stick a tight end on him like George Kittle or the Gronker, who's 9 feet tall, you've got a mismatch that's going to give up big chunks of yardage at a time. Other than that, he's ready to play, and he's ready to be a snot knocker again this year.
I thought the problem with him started with his draft night outfit.
100%.
That's where my arm hair started to raise and get tingly a little bit. I go, oh, there's a problem, Houston.
This from a guy who wears flannel shirts and boots all the time.
Paul Bunyan. So let's talk about the acquisition from Seattle and Witherspoon. Do you think he's a depth piece, or do you think there's an opportunity for him once he gets acclimated and learns a little bit of the Stil'rs language and system that he could be a game day starter?
6'2", 195, human torpedo. I think this is the defense he was always meant to play in. You know, they play that West Coast softer defense out there with the Sea Chickens and the 49ers. I think this is the defense he's meant to be in. And quite potentially, Kevin Colbert, once again being a genius, you don't know what's going to happen with Joe Hayden next year. Joe Hayden wants to go test the free market and see what he can get as a 97-year-old cornerback. We'll see what happens. I love this acquisition of Witherspoon. Mikey?
I agree, but I don't know if he's a 6'2" human torpedo. I mean, you know, I think they need some help, and it'll be interesting. He's caught on late, so it's a late acquisition, so he's got to still learn the system, and they'll plug him in intermittently here and there to try and put him in the best situation possible.
Man, Randy, do you love yourself some...
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, you love yourself some Kevin Colbert, don't you? I just picture you hanging out at the curb of his house with your camera, hoping you could snag some intimate pics, like of him taking out the trash or something weekend, that you love him that much.
Look, I do not want to get into this restraining order again that he had filed against me.
I mean, the fawning is over the top. Like,
well, look, here's the thing if you take a big step back. One last thing on Witherspoon. He has the ability to play man. He has the ability to play man and play it well. To take a big step back and look at this Steelers 2021 team, they are all in to win something with Ben Roethlisberger being healthy. They are not being tentative. They are not saying, let's build for the future. So with that thought in mind, we've got to ride Ben as far as we can ride him. What can we do to make this Steelers team better so we can win now? And I think they've been working with that focus all year long. And the free agent moves they've made, like Ingram, we'll find out about Witherspoon. I like the fact that somehow, Andy, in the COVID year number 2, when the salary cap is $187 million, I think is what it is, somewhere around there, that somehow, and not even being cheap, have been able to save themselves. I think it's down to like $15 million now. They've still got $15 million, if I'm wrong, in their back pocket right now to either use for T.J. Watt, or if Dan Moore fails at left tackle, to go make a trade from some team that's in last place that has a great left tackle. I just think that everything that Colbert's done in this offseason has been the right thing so far. And whatever they go back to Juju. You know, why
you mean milk crate challenge?
Oh, jeez.
Reckless or childish?
Both.
It's childish. It's immature.
It's both.
To me, he's got to cut it. And I like Juju's personality off the field as far as giving back to the community, doing donations. I think he's tough when he goes over the middle of the field, but I think he's got to grow up a little bit, quit the TikTok dancing, quit the challenges, because it's starting to become a cancer, in my opinion, and it's rubbing off on Claypool. And the thing is, if you get rid of Juju last year, Claypool, I don't think, acts the way he does, especially when Juju talks about the Browns, and then when the Browns win, you know, Claypool kind of has to be quiet as opposed to saying the Browns were classless. Well, Juju was classless for talking in the first place. So Claypool, it's kind of rubbing off on him. I think they need to nip it in the butt and say, look, chill out on the social media, chill out on all the TikTok stuff. It's time to focus on football. This is your 4th year in the NFL, 5th year in the NFL. You gotta time to grow up and become a leader and a man.
Come on, Mike, you gotta build your brand, brother.
No.
You gotta build your brand.
People say
how are you gonna do that with a cast on your leg?
And people say he took less money to play for the Steelers. And I'll tell you what, if he was going to play for the Ravens, all he'd be doing is blocking. He'd be a glorified tight end. So there's a reason why he stayed with the Steelers, because he didn't feel like blocking that much.
Right. And we're going to wrap it up with our prediction in a second, but I do want to give you credit, Tank, about Kevin Colbert. And hopefully Trey Essex can channel Trey Essex of a few years ago, and hopefully Joe Schobert, can play a little bit faster than he has in recent years and get back to when he was a Pro Bowler, I believe, in 2017. So I think you're right. Colbert has done a good job of trying to put in some even better than serviceable pieces. It's just this, I guess we're all going to have to wait and see what version of some of these players that he has brought in do we get. The ones that were the greatest parts of them are on the downside.
Well, this leadership to bring this team together isn't on the shoulders of Mike Tomlin, because he's failed there several times. I won't get into that past history. The leadership to make this team believe that it can get something special done is with your big man at quarterback this year. For the first time in his life, throughout Ben's career, we've heard, well, Ben's for Ben. He's not a team guy and all this. This is the year for Ben Roethlisberger, since the Steelers are all in and giving him everything they can possibly give him at this point. This team is on Ben Roethlisberger this year to get this team focused and winning, to grab Juju by the face mask and go, knock it off and let's win football games. So,
right.
I'm just so adamant about it. I'm psyched about this season. Mike keeps telling, from shame to glory this year. It was a damn shame they wasted that offense last year, and it was a damn shame they lost to the Cleveland Clowns. From shame to glory this year. I think this team can surprise some people.
Yeah, I guess that's what everybody's going to try to determine. What's the ceiling and what's the floor? So, speaking of ceiling and floor, we have the game this week. The Steelers are 6.5-point favorites. I'm going to put you on the spot. Mike, what's your prediction, brother?
I don't know. I don't like it. I think Najee Harris has a good game. I think they just come up short. I think Buffalo's going to win by 1 or 2. But I think it'll help Pittsburgh in the long run to realize that, hey, they got to get moving. If they get a win early, it could get to their head.
Right. Well, the Raiders are coming down in week 2, and they're going to have their typical Raider problems, I assume, no matter who's behind the helmet or behind the quarterback for the Raiders. It seems like the Steelers can find a way to throw that one in the proverbial crapper from, Gradkowski or whoever was back there, found a way to beat them. So I don't think even if they win, they better get too excited, because they've never really played well traditionally in recent years against the Raiders.
Jim Plunkett's starting next week for the Raiders, I heard, and if he doesn't do well, Daryl LaMonica.
All right, Tank, what do you got on your prediction, brother?
I see the Steelers going into Buffalo, this is with great optimism, and exploiting those linebackers with a Matt Canada offense. He's going to have those inside linebackers and outside linebackers not knowing what's coming at him, because he's got that new kid, Fryer, tuck and go. The kid out of Penn State playing tight end across the middle. All of a sudden, they're going to have to deal with Juju across their middle as well, and you're going to see Claypool flying down the sideline. Then you're going to see the Alabama Crimson Tide blowing over Kevin Dotson, picking up 5, 6, 7 yards at a time. This Steelers offense is going to explode. All depends on the Steelers defense.
I just want a final score now, okay? You created its vivid imagery. What's the score? Come on. No, put your credibility on the line. What's the score? I'm going to give you my score.
Oh, I definitely see Buffalo Bills putting up 27 points this week. And I think your Steelers have the capability of also putting up 27 points. How's that for an answer?
So you're saying it's going to be a tie. Is that the limb that you are man enough to go out on?
34-27 your Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right.
I'll say 35-34.
Okay. And I'm going to say
Buffalo.
I think the Steelers hang tough and cover the spread. I think they lose 27-21. So,
you know what, Mr. T, Andy, you know what Mr. T said in Rocky 3? They said, hey, Mr. T, we need a prediction. He looked at the camera, he said, I predicts pain.
Pain. So, we're going to wrap it up here real quick, but I did think, what are the chances that all four teams in the AFC North could lose this week? You got the Browns playing at KC, very likely. The Vikings probably come to town and beat Cincy. So then you have the Ravens breaking in the brand new stadium in Vegas. That place is going to be nuts. So they'll be all out party night before. There's a chance that the Ravens lose to the Raiders, and if we are all on the same page, we think the Steelers are in for a rough go against the Bills. The AFC North could all wake up on Tuesday morning looking at 0-1.
They could, but they won't. I think the AFC North will be 2-2 at the end of after week 1.
Well, hopefully one of those two is the Steelers, right, Mike?
We'll see. Maybe. You never know. I think they could play him tough. Again, it's a defense, though. Can they contain Josh Allen? He's tough. They'll double Stephon Diggs, and now they got to deal with Gabriel Davis and Cole Beasley, and then
Emmanuel
Buffalo's
Sanders
trying
too.
to get that run. Yeah, and then also, yeah, you're right. And also Buffalo's trying to get that run game going with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. But again, it depends on how creative. Again, if Ben really buys into Matt Canada's offense, and Matt Canada can help the offense by running the football, help the defense by running the football, using up some clock, using play action pass, I think they could keep the defense off the field. They don't want to get to a shootout with Buffalo, in my opinion.
Right. Well, another good chat today, guys. I appreciate it. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Look on Facebook for us for Steelers Chalk Talk, or go to YouTube for Steelers Chalk Talk, or go to our website, PittsburghSportsTalk.org. One last thing, Andy, because we'd be remiss if we didn't mention our good brother who's walking the paths of glory these days, one Tunch Ilkin. Pittsburgh lost a really, really good guy.
Great guy.
Tunch this week. So,
yeah, it was sad to see that.
Prayers are with his family.
Yeah, it's always great when they say you're a better man than you were a football player. I think that's the greatest life compliment that anybody can give to someone. So, your words are appreciated. I'm sure everybody in Steeler Nation feels exactly the same way. So we'll look forward to chatting again in a couple weeks, guys.
All right, Andy. You
Sounds
take care of yourself.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Weeks, guys.
All right, Andy. You
Sounds
take care of
good.
yourself.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Weeks, guys.
All right, Andy. You
Sounds
take care of
good.
yourself.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Weeks, guys.
All right, Andy. You
Sounds
take care of
good.
yourself.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Weeks, guys.